What's going on, Resident Evil fans? UnrealEntGaming here today, bringing you some news, updates, and information revolving Resident Evil 7 and the 7 things Capcom needs to do in order to revamp and make Resident Evil 7 the best Resident Evil of its kind. Now, as a hardcore Resident Evil fan, I feel like over the years, the Resident Evil franchise has definitely diminished and has lost its core value. So here are 7 things Capcom must do in order to revamp and make Resident Evil 7 better than any of the Resident Evil games of its time. Bullet point number 1, survival horror. What Capcom needs to do is they need to reintroduce survival horror within the video game. Now, survival horror in terms of video games is not dead whatsoever. A few examples of this are The Last of Us, in which case it incorporated survival horror. We will have Shinji Mikami's new The Evil Within game coming out in 2014 that is strictly survival horror based. So if Resident Evil 7 wants to be the top of its game, if Resident Evil 7 plans on being the best of its kind, what they ought to do is reintroduce survival horror and keep it that way. Remember, it's survival horror that made Resident Evil what it is today. Unfortunately, over the years, they completely moved away from that element. So in order to make Resident Evil 7 very, very good, and in order to make it a successful game, you have to go back to its original roots. You have to keep the game survival horror based. You can't keep it action based. You can't keep it anything else. The game must be about survival horror. It can't be a Michael Bay film. It has to strictly go back to its roots and keep the elements within the game incorporated, and that being survival horror. Bullet point number 2, zombies. The game needs zombies. Resident Evil was built on zombies, mutants, tyrants, lickers, demon dogs, all sorts of stuff. So they have to reintroduce the zombie element because Resident Evil was built off of zombies. Resident Evil established how zombies were portrayed. So they did a very good job by reintroducing the zombies in Resident Evil 6 with the C virus in the town of Tall Oaks, but it wasn't executed to its full potential. What they ought to do is bring back the zombies. If you want to add new monsters and new mutants, that is completely fine, but they have to bring back the zombies. They can't bring back the Las Plagas type monster with like the little floating octopus tentacles on their head. No, it has to be strictly zombies. Remember, that's what made Resident Evil what it is today, because it was built off of zombies. It was based off of survival horror. So by them reintroducing zombies for Resident Evil 7, maybe in a different form, maybe instead of walkers, they are running this time, sort of like in World War Z or Left 4 Dead. You know, by including those elements, you're actually giving the player a run for his money, because rather than them just walking on by and just seeing a crawler or a walker, they're going to be encountering flesh-hungry, you know, fast zombies per se. So that's one element they can always reintroduce. Bullet point number 3, improved AI. Over the years, we've seen some of the dumbest things happen within the Resident Evil video game, strictly based on AI alone. We've seen enemy AI just completely unresponsive. We've seen friendly AI completely unresponsive. So if they're planning on making a new Resident Evil game for the next-gen consoles, they ought to improve the AI, make the AI much smarter than before, make the AI actually reliable if it's going to be friendly AI. I just feel like when you have improved AI and smart AI systems, the game tends to be much more horrifying and better than what it previously was. Bullet point number 4, no action. Why should Resident Evil as a franchise compete with Call of Duty? Why is Capcom trying to reach out to the Call of Duty audience? Call of Duty players and the Call of Duty audience will always go to Call of Duty. Resident Evil fans and the Resident Evil audience will always go to Resident Evil. So incorporate that and keep your game based on Resident Evil, not Call of Duty. Stop trying to incorporate the COD based model, because if it doesn't work for your game, why would you continue to incorporate that? By including action in a video game such as Resident Evil, as we saw in Resident Evil 6, it makes no sense. It becomes a Michael Bay film, and honestly, it loses its value. So like I said, survival horror, zombies, improved AI, and no Michael Bay Call of Duty type action, because it really does take away from the overall experience. Bullet point number 5, more suspense. What happened to the traditional classic suspense that we used to to have in horror games. You know, it all pretty much went away because Resident Evil decided to just remove the suspense and incorporate an FPS type, you know, model where people are just running and gunning and just, you know, collecting ammo all over the place and just, you know, keeping it like a Battlefield, Call of Duty based game. Not that there's anything wrong with those games, but if you're making a Resident Evil game, why are you going to incorporate action? Why are you going to leave out suspense? Suspense must return in Resident Evil 7 because when you have suspense, you're going to have a period of desperation. Players won't know what to do. Perfect example, if you look at the game The Evil Within, that game is packed with suspense and survival horror, something that will actually make the game great because without suspense, your survival horror game isn't going to be as good. Bullet point number 6, story connections. If they really want to make Resident Evil 7 great, they ought to connect the stories. They ought to go back and talk about Raccoon City, talk about Tall Oaks, where this new virus came from, what's going on, the new enemy, have connections with the old characters like Jill Valentine, Claire Redfield, Chris Redfield, Leon S. Kennedy. If you're going to incorporate Jake, keep him as one of the connections to the game. Ada Wong, whatever happened to Barry and Billy from Resident Evil 0 and Resident Evil 1, have a story-based connection and go back to the original roots in terms of telling a great story, because when you have a story that correlates to the other games, the game tends to be that much better because the audience will understand what's going on and you'll pretty much have a very established story. And finally, bullet point number 7, plot twists. If you're going to have a great story, don't make it predictable. Predictability always pretty much ruins a video game. So always do plot twists and cutoffs, something that the players would have never seen coming. I believe with Resident Evil 7, that's always been a great factor, except for Resident Evil 7, if you're going to tell a great story, don't make it so predictable. Make it to where there's a lot of twists and turns, decision making, things that the player will never see coming, because that's what's going to make the game sell. That's what's going to make the story even better, because people are going to idolize a game that not only has a good story connection and a good story overall, but it's going to have good twists and turns and stuff that people did not see coming. So overall, guys, Resident Evil 7 does have the potential to be a great game. Capcom even stated that they're going to quote-unquote go back to its original survival horror roots, and I really hope they do that, because if they don't, Resident Evil 7 will flop. Yeah, there are going to be a few people who are going to buy it, but is it going to be as good? Absolutely not. It's going to be the same thing as probably Resident Evil 6, and honestly, people hated Resident Evil 6. The only thing they liked about Resident Evil 6 was the Leon campaign, because you had a lot of twists and turns, you had zombies, and more zombies. Although the overall gameplay of it was not really good, the game pretty much kept it to where the Leon story had what we wanted. So if Resident Evil 7 wants to be successful, they ought to learn from their audience. They ought to help the audience just get what they want, because when the audience get what they want, the company gets what they want. So overall, everybody, let me know in the comment section below on your thoughts and opinions on Resident Evil 7. Do you guys think Resident Evil 7 will be good? Do you guys think Resident Evil 7 will be bad? Let me know in the comment section below, guys. What would you guys incorporate? What would you guys take away? Let me know. Thank you all for watching, everybody. My name is UnrealEntGaming. If you guys are Resident Evil fans, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for all latest Resident Evil news, information, and updates. If you guys enjoyed the video, if you guys found this video informative, hit it up with a like and a favorite. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below, because it's what makes the community what it is today. So thank you all for watching, everybody. Let's all pray that Resident Evil 7 is going to be as good as some people make it out to be. Who knows? Maybe Jake might be the new main character of the story. We don't know yet, but I really hope for their sake that they actually listen to the fans this time and give us what we want. So all we can do now is pray. But thank you all for watching, everybody. Be sure to check out my previous episodes. More to come. God bless you all, and I'll be seeing you all later. Peace.